Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and the time has come for me to talk about the third of the three songs that was revealed yesterday, and the second of the two that was scheduled to be revealed and wasn't just sprung on us out of nowhere. I speak, of course, of the Former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, which for the rest of this review I'm going to refer to just as Macedonia, because it's shorter and easier to say. I don't want to weigh in on your politics, I do not give a damn what's going on between this country and Greece. Don't bring it here, this is not the place to talk about it. Anyway, the song is Dance Alone, performed by Jana Burčeska. It's totally in English, and according to Eurovision.tv, it was written by Joachim Persson, Alex Omar, Florence A, and Bobby Leon Milanov. That's just according to Eurovision.tv. As I've said, the three songs that were revealed yesterday, the composers and information about the composers and all that lot was rather thin on the ground, so I'm not as well informed as I normally would be, but that's what my research has dredged up. So, first impressions then. Oh, the music video. Oh, it's making me feel all kinds of things. If you haven't seen that yet, then maybe you should. But I promise not to let that influence my judgment for the actual song. So, Dance Alone then. Oh, I've heard Jana described as the Macedonian Tove Lo, and yep, I can absolutely hear that in the song. To the point that I think this song would actually mash up really well with Habits, brackets, Stay High by Tove Lo. Don't know why that means brackets, but there you go. It's definitely not plagiarizing her or anything. I'm not accusing her of that. I'm just saying, just in case someone out there was getting that impression, they're just similar in style to the point where I think they would sound good if you were to mix them together. That's all I'm saying. And it's actually kind of funny. The style of the song, right? It's somehow, it feels really modern, but it's also reminiscent of like 70s and 80s electro stuff. And I don't understand how it can be both at once, but somehow it is. Maybe it's just that retro throwbacks are in at the moment. But, like, stylized retro. Okay, even I'm starting to lose myself in these incessant ramblings at this point, so how about we focus on more concrete things about the song then, shall we? Starting with what I like. Well, as I was just starting to ponder before I went off the deep end just now, Macedonia's really got their finger on the pulse this year. This is probably the most contemporary entry they've ever sent to adult Eurovision. I don't actually know that much about their junior Eurovision attempts, so that's why I say it that way. At least from the time that I've been watching. Anyway, I can't speak of their efforts from before 2005 or so, but anyway. By this, I mean it absolutely sounds like it's fresh in from the charts at the time it was submitted, rather than either being written for whenever, or bespoke written with just Eurovision in mind, or written with nothing but self-representation in mind, with no regard for public reception, or anything like that. Another thing that sort of stems from that point is that the key the song is written in, alongside the tone and the delivery of the lyrics, it all comes together to make for a very engrossing experience. I've spoken quite a bit about atmosphere in my reviews this year, and this song delivers on it at least enough for me to comment on it again. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but it's worth pointing out for this song. It has at least enough of a presence for it to feel justified, for my belief to be willingly suspended, that this song is an extended soliloquy about independence and self-sustained isolation and the thought processes and the mindset, possibly even the coping mechanisms that are employed by someone who's in the position of the singer of the song. Whether they're willfully by themselves, or if they're alone because society has dictated that, or if they're forced into a situation where they have to be alone, but they're trying to make the best of it, that kind of idea. And you know what? That actually sounded essay quality, so I'll just stick that into the good points lists. Yeah. Good job, Macedonia. You've actually garnered quite a bit of support in your favour already with what is actually kind of a clever song, so good for you. Well done. Nice. Yeah. Now, on the other side of the fence, I think I've used that analogy once already, but hey, well, can I list as a bad point the inevitability that if I compliment this song on sounding contemporary, immediately I can hear someone commenting right now before I even finish this sentence, let alone this video.
But it's not modern, Tess. This genre's been around since the 70s.
Because, I know. It's got that kind of genre from the 70s as a basis, but it's got a modern twist. Okay, fine. Let's stretch that a little and slap that on as a bad point. Some people will latch onto its retro roots and decide that it sounds old, despite being a modern interpretation of an older genre. I know what you people can be like, and I'm not talking to everyone, I'm just talking to those... You know what? You know who you are. You know who I am talking to. You know who you are, okay? A slightly more reasonable point that I can make in all of this, though, is that the song has a comparatively narrow vocal range to it, which does lend to its intimacy quite a bit, but it also makes the song infinitely more difficult to stage. Now, apparently they've got the same person who choreographed for Bulgaria last year and Sweden in 2012, so they're probably in safe hands, but they've still got their work cut out for them, really. I can't, off the top of my head, think of a good way of staging this, but that's not to say that it can't be staged well. I just can't think of anything off the top of my head. So when they get a professional choreographer in, I'm sure they will make something really impressive for the song, so I'm not worried, but it is a point to consider. And one other point that I don't know how to feel about, I'm not sure how easy it is to convey the relatively intimate yet still loosely emotionally detached atmosphere that the vocals convey in this song live. I don't think she'll have too much trouble, but if she doesn't have enough breath, or actually if she has too much breath for that matter, it could impact the overall texture of her voice, and thus in turn affect the mood of the song as a whole. I don't think that's incredibly likely, but it is still a notable, if I admit weird, risk factor that I've brought up here. That's just a point to think about. Anyway, that's how these reviews work. I am rambling again. Okay, time for the scores, and I don't really know how to feel about the conclusions that I've come to here. My own personal rating out of 10 is a 10. This was a bit of a sleeper hit for me, honestly. I listened to it once and I thought, yeah, this is pretty alright. And then with every subsequent listen, I found myself loving it more and more and more. I do love the whole aesthetic of the juxtaposition of upbeat song with sad, melancholy lyrics, especially when it's carried off this well. Broadly speaking, this is one of those examples of a song where, when you're happy, you enjoy the music, and when you're sad, you appreciate the words. With or without the video, this song makes me feel things, and it's wonderful. As for the technical score out of 10, well, I have an entire Discord server full of witnesses. I really did have deep deliberations over what to award this song in this department, and I've settled on a 10. I feel like there has to be something that means I can't give the song a perfect 20, but no, I don't see anything. I'm really not seeing any valid reason that stands up enough to justify docking this song any points anywhere. Make no mistake, just because it's got a perfect score doesn't mean that I think it's a perfect song, by any means. But if I can't award 10 out of 10 on my own scale every now and then what's the point of the scale going up to 10 in the first place? It's a very good song that's very well written, very well performed, and I like it, so 10 out of 10 in both departments. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but it does tick a lot of the right boxes for me. Now, looking back on last year's Macedonian entry, well, I've had people criticising me this year for not being able to appreciate certain types of songs, and so-and-so country's song this year isn't old-fashioned, it's timeless. No, Calliope's song last year was timeless, and I stand by that. It's very timeless, but timelessness tends not to hold up when you have a song like Jana's, where it's so comparatively perfectly attuned to what people want to hear in that specific year. So, sure, Donna was lovely and beautiful, and Calliope has an amazing voice, and no one's trying to disprove that. And yeah, while the studio version was my 43rd in my top 43 that year, I did still award her 7 points in the semi-final in my household's voting, where everyone had their 1 to 8 and then 10 and 12. I gave her 7. But despite that, I do still prefer Jana's song. I'm more likely to listen to it more often. Well, most people are more likely to listen to it more often, simply because it's that flavour of engaging. It might age a bit more quickly, it might not be as timeless as Donna, but it's more likely to have a bigger impact in the moment that it's presented. That's all, really. So, will it break Macedonia's streak of non-qualification? Well, it certainly is their safest bet to qualify since Calliope's previous attempt in 2012, if I'm honest. The song storms in, leaves an impression, not to mention a mountain of emotional relevance, and if the public reception since its release is anything to judge by, then it's already netted itself quite a substantial safety net in terms of points. I can imagine the jury's appreciating her style and presentation, especially if the choreography turns out to be just as impressive as it's been hyped up to be. There is still room for it potentially missing out in the top 10 when all is said and done. It's not as likely as it successfully qualifying, of course. It's probably going to get to the final, but it is worth bearing in mind that there are some futures where it might not make it. Wait, what? Some futures? What, am I Garnet from Steven Universe? Well, anyway, I will say to you, good luck, Macedonia. This is a very promising entry, and the fans seem to think so as well, so we'll see what happens when you get to Kiev. Good luck, and we'll see you in May.